Welcome to Keep Your Hands in Your Skirt podcast with your host, Sabrina Brightstar. Are you a woman who manages her own set point? Use the universal laws of the universe to raise your vibration. Be a woman who can receive more pleasure, more fun, and more joy. Together, let's claim our infinite worth. Keep Your Hands in Your Skirt is a fun way to remind yourself to mind your own business. Zero in on you and your desires. Say goodbye to judgments and people-pleasing. Join Sabrina and be a woman who can receive, create, and actualize everything you desire.
Hello and welcome. My name is Sabrina. Keep your hand in your skirt. Are you keeping your hand in your skirt, minding your own business, tending to your own set point? Today's topic is intuition. Ooh, intuition is a big topic. I am going to try to simplify what I want to talk about today, but I am going to be continuing to talk about intuition over the next month as I'm working on an intuition project. But first of all, what is intuition? Do you have a great relationship with intuition? Would you like to improve your relationship with intuition? And how can you do that? I believe intuition is communication. Intuition is a type of communication between you and your multidimensional self. Some people call it your higher self, your inner being, your God source, some people call it your angels, your guides. It doesn't matter the term or the words you use. The bottom line is, do you have a form of communication between you and an aspect of you that can assist, support, and guide you? For example, I believe my small self, my human self, I have a limited availability of what I can see, what I can access, what I can see, smell, touch, right? Like my human self has a smaller, a more narrow point of view about what is happening. My wider self, my multidimensional self, right, has a broader point of view, has a broader perspective. My multidimensional self is aware of the bigger story, the bigger picture, has data, information, resources that my smaller self, my human self, does not have access to. So I can use intuition or communication to connect, to communicate, to dialogue with my multidimensional self, to assist, to support, to help my human self have an easier, better, more effective, more resilient life. And so how do you get that communication? And how does that communication show up? That's the multidimensional question, right? I mean, that's the $1 million question. People want this access to this information. I know so many people who are hungry to be able to talk, to communicate, to receive guidance. And I know from my own self, when I had my multidimensional awakening, I developed a huge appetite to communicate with my multidimensional self. And I had a lot of misunderstandings about what communication to my multidimensional self would be. I assumed communication to my multidimensional self or my higher self would be the same as communicating with a person sitting in this room with me. If I'm sitting in this room with you, I would start by saying, hi, so-and-so, my name is Sabrina, I am, and I would share something about myself. I would communicate in the English language because that's where I was raised. I would communicate with verbs and nouns in a proper pronunciation. I would communicate with a beginning, a middle, and an end in my sentence structure, in my verbal translation, because that is what I have received as communication. So I expected, when I set the intention to start communicating with my multidimensional self, I expected I was going to hear word for word sounds, word for word translations from my higher self or my guides or my multidimensional self. For example, I really thought this, I'm not joking, I really thought I was going to hear in my head, hello, Sabrina, my name is Zorian, I am your guide. That's what I thought was going to happen. So that's what I was looking for. That's all I was available for, because that's what my expectation was. So I would get into the zone. I would meditate. I would they say if you want to communicate with your multidimensional self, if you want to channel your guides or talk to your guides, you got to get really relaxed. You got to get into the zone. You got to meditate. You got to open your heart space. You got to create a sacred container. So I did it all. And then I would wait. I would be waiting for my guide Zorion to say, hello, Sabrina, I am your guide Zorion, right? I was waiting for this voice. I was waiting for this English translation. I was waiting for words, and it wouldn't happen. I would just sit there and why isn't this working for me? How come I'm not getting any information? What am I doing wrong? Right? I always go to the wrongness of me. What am I doing wrong? And so I'd try other types of meditation. I would read other books about how people are communicating with their guides or their higher selves. I was open to teach me how to do this. I want to do it. So if you feel stuck or frustrated, let me assure you, you're not alone. It's really people. So we are so hungry to communicate with all that is, all that we are, guides, whatever word you want to use. We have such an appetite, and I believe we have such a big appetite because we know this is available. We know that there's a resource or a tool that can really assist and help us in our day-to-day life. And so we're really, really hungry for that. We really have this natural desire for something that we know is actually available. It's a resource that we should be able to actualize. So how does intuition communicate with you? Well, what I learned over time is we all communicate with our intuition individually. It is a customized style of communicating. It's not going to be the same for everyone. Does somebody actually hear the voice that says, hello, Sabrina, my name is Zorion, I am your guide? Yeah, maybe some people hear that voice. Maybe some people get a word for word English translation. Me, that's not how I receive communication from my intuition or my multidimensional self. So first of all, just having the awareness that there are multiple ways communication can happen, and it does not necessarily have to be with English word translation, beginning, middle, end sentence. Now, a side note of why I am so passionate about communication is because, for those of you who may know or not know, I have hearing loss. At the pregnancy of my second son, I started to lose my hearing. And over about 10 years, I ended up becoming almost completely deaf in both ears. And luckily, I had learned some sign language when I was one of Jehovah's Witnesses. And so my kids were learning sign language because we assumed there'd be a day where I would be completely deaf. And plus, we really like sign language. Well, what was shocking to us when my daughter was in college and trying to take sign language, which she did, she was able to take the class, but sign language is not recognized as real language. Can you believe that? And they say sign language is not a real language because it doesn't translate beginning, middle, and end. It doesn't have the pronouns, the nouns, the verbs, right? It doesn't translate with all of the grammar that English has, because sign language is more instead of saying my name is Sabrina, that would be the English way, that would be the English translation of my name is Sabrina. In sign language, you would just do name Sabrina or Sabrina name, right? So it's not all these extra words, and you're showing pictures, and the bigger your expressions are, the bigger, that's like using exclamation points, right? It's just a different way to communicate, and most people aren't familiar with that style of communication until they study it. That's the key about your intuition. That's the key. You can become really great at intuition, but there's different types of communication that will happen, and you need to learn, or you develop the ability to decipher, to read these different types of languages, so to speak. You might be a visual person and your intuition works with you through imagery, maybe symbols, maybe colors. Maybe you're a sense person and your intuition communicates with you through your senses. You might be an intuition communicator through your knowing, through your body. Maybe your body just knows things. Maybe you just get hits. You just like have a sensory knowing inside your body. There are so many ways our intuition or our multidimensional self, higher self, can talk to us, can gift us with information and data. But first of all, we have to just be available and open. Like, communication can happen in so many different ways. And allow it to show up in the way, the path of least resistance, in a way that you're going to start to be able to develop and have this relationship with your intuition. And just start to look for it. You can start asking open-ended questions like, hey, intuition, what is the easiest way for you to get my attention? What's the easiest way for you to share data, information for me? And just ask. You can just sit inside these open-ended questions. Just start like, hey, intuition, I am open, receptive, and available to have a fantastic relationship with you. Intuition, I am eager and excited and wanting to co-create a relationship with you where I can be fully supported by you and I can receive and exchange information that would be highly beneficial to both parties, right? Like, so just having that awareness and then starting to see, like, and you might be a person who gets their intuition hits through imagery for a while, and then that might start to shift or change. So just having that open space, just being available for ways to start to develop this connection with your intuition or your guides or your multidimensional self. So it's just a great topic. Some people miss and dismiss intuition because either they don't believe it's real, it's not showing up the way they expected it to show up, it's taking longer than they anticipated for the connection to happen. And it reminds me of, like, if you're like, right now I'm learning to play the piano. I bought myself a beautiful piano and I'm learning to play it. And to be honest, I'm frustrated sometimes, often, because it's taking longer than I want it, right? Like, I'm like, oh, this language of learning to play the piano is more time consuming than I thought it would be. I wanted just to be really good at it right away. And that's what happens with our intuition. So many of us, we have this hunger and we want to be really good with being able to communicate with our multidimensional self, but it's a little maybe more challenging or a little slower than what we want, and it gets frustrating, and then we can just drop the whole, right? Then we can just dismiss the whole thing because it's took too long, right? We got frustrated. We didn't understand what the guidance was, or maybe we even felt betrayed by our intuition. Like, why did my intuition lead me to this when that didn't turn out to be what I wanted it to be? And that leads me to the story I really wanted to share with you that I'm so excited about. And again, it doesn't look like it's a good story, but from my multidimensional self, I can see this story totally was here to serve me. So I had created a plan to go to San Francisco, to go to LA, to go to Mexico, and then Florida. So I had created this plan where I was going to be gone for about 6 weeks. I was so excited, right? I followed my highest excitement. For me, my intuition communicates to me loud and clear through my highest excitement. I know 100% when I get really excited about something, when I am really called or inspired to do something, that is intuition summoning me, that's intuition saying, this is the right way to go, this is the right way to go, yes, 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 yes. So I was so inspired, my highest excitement, to plan this 6-week adventure. Okay? This is a great story. Stay with me. So I go start the adventure, right? Go to San Francisco. Everything's going great. Well, about a week in, I'm starting to get this idea, like, I think I want to go home. And I tried to, like, you know how we, like when you get an intuition hit, when you get some guidance and we want to, you know, say, no, that's wrong. Like, I don't believe, no, like, I must be off. Why would that happen, right? So I kept trying to, like, push it away. I kept trying to, like, that's weird. Why would I want to go home? Like, I've got this whole thing planned. This is my highest excitement. No, I don't want to go home, right? And so I kept trying to dismiss it, but I just kept having this, like, feeling like, I think I want to go home. Like, I don't know why I want to go home, but I think I want to go home. And then I just, you know, I sat with it and I would ask myself, like, self, like, what is your highest excitement? What would you like to do? Do you want to go to Florida? You know, I'd try to talk to myself. Do you want to do this? And I just kept getting like, no, I want to go home. So I thought, okay, like, one thing I've learned and I'm really, really good at is I trust me. I trust me. So when my body, when my energy, when my feeling is I want to go home, even if I don't logically understand it, I trust it. So I got done with Mexico and I'm like, I'm going home. I don't know why, but I guess I'm complete. I feel full. The thing that it feels the best for me to do, my highest excitement, is to go back home. So I came back home last night and guess what I discovered? I discovered mice are living in my house and right, which is not good. So my house has been sitting empty and I've got mice in it and I'm freaked out, and that's a whole nother story I could share with you. But my daughter and my son-in-law came over and they set traps and and I was showing them the house, and you know, because I'm really, really afraid of mice, if you don't know that. I'm like really afraid of mice. And so I was showing them different things, and then I saw like, oh my gosh, like all this stuff from my ceiling was on my sofa. And I'm like, oh my gosh, there's another animal in here right now. I'm freaking out. And they're like, Mom, that's not like, there's not like, that's from the ceiling. And I look up and my ceiling is leaking. My ceiling is leaking. And guess what? That's why I came home. There's stuff that needed to be handled in my house. And from my multidimensional perspective, from the part of me that sees the bigger, fuller story, that part of me summoned me home so I can handle what needs to be handled in my house. And so even though that might seem like it's a, you know, not like a happy ending story, like Florida would be so much better than dealing with mice and a ceiling that's leaking, it excites me because it gives me so much confidence that my relationship with myself, my intuition, my multidimensional self, I have such a beautiful connection with all that I am that I was able to hear, come home, and I came home. And that's just why I love so much. I love that we can develop these types of connections. We can develop this type of relationship with our multidimensional self, our intuition, and we can use this ability to make our life easier, to assist us, to help us in this human experience. So I'm going to be talking more about intuition in the weeks to come, and I've got some different projects that I'm working with it. I am really excited about intuition. So how is your intuition? Do you have great intuition? How does intuition communicate with you? I'd love to hear your stories. I'd love to hear how you connect, how you have conversations, how you have information, data, that drops in your field, and some great stories you have with your relationship with intuition. Thanks for listening. Have a great afternoon.
Manage your own set point. Use tools to change your vibration. Raise your set point. Thank you for listening to the Keep Your Hands in Your Skirt podcast. Make sure to subscribe and please leave a review. We really appreciate that effort, and we'll catch you in the next episode.